me, Sean Capri, and welcome to We the GamerCast. It publishes on podcast services and youtube.com/UmeCapri every single Monday. Patrons get it first. Thank you guys so much for subscribing and hitting the like button and telling your mom and telling your friend and telling your friend's friend and putting it on Twitter and telling everybody that you know. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you very, very much. And here we are, 2022. We made it. 2021 had a lot of challenges, but let's face it, they had a lot of pretty good things too, right? Couldn't all be bad. Some of you guys listen to the Pants Patreon podcast for Patrons podcast, an exclusive bonus podcast for supporting Yumi Capri. And I start every one of those episodes with the 3 thankful things. And I think that has powered me through, man. It's been challenging, but it's good. And right now, I've actually, let me just pull back the curtain here a little bit. I've recorded a couple of intros here, and I keep getting on a track where I'm talking about my dogs, and I'm not going to do it, actually. I didn't like where I was going with any of those conversations or dialogues or monologues at all. So I'm just going to leave it. What I have done is on the Pants Patreon podcast for Patrons podcast, I go into detail about my last week of 2021 where I did lose the dogs, and I kind of just talk through that. So I don't think I'm not going to rehash it here. I did it probably better over there anyways. And for whatever reason, I just want to start this episode this year with the energy that you're hearing from me right now. So I was feeling conflicted about that, but this is what we're going to do. But I'm getting way ahead of myself because if you're new, here's the deal. Every week I have sweet hangs with a stranger from the internet, and we talk about life and video games and sometimes comics like today. And if you want to be on the show or just let me know what you think, you can tweet at me at Sean Capri, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. And man, the community has rallied. We are, one of the things that's really cool in the Discord, and I don't know if you guys have seen this as well, there's been a lot of birthdays lately, and we're all celebrating. We're all making that day very special for everybody. Digi is celebrated birthday. Joey Splats is celebrated birthday. A few others. Very, very cool. I love what I'm seeing here, you guys. And 2022, let's grab it, man. I'm so excited about today's conversation with the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition. And I'm going to get to that in just a second. But if you're considering, maybe, if you like supporting people on Patreon, if you like supporting independent content, you can go to patreon.com/UmeCapri, just like nearly 70 others have done already and continue to do. And you guys just lift me up. And I want to say a special thank you to all of our Capremium producers, Dallas Ford, Lee Navarro, the fearless leader of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team, and Johnathan Brown, the man behind the music on the Xbox Drive and the Nintendo Drive. You can support Johnathan Brown at youtube.com/PMENT. More on him in just a second. Platinum producers, Robbie Bobby Miller and Trucker Sloth, and all of our gold members. Holy crap, there's so many of you guys. Argo, Brendan Myers, Dallas Robbins, Dano, Emily O'Kelly, Foolish Fuji, Joel Brooks, Jose Jimenez, Mac Time, Marcus O'Neill, Mr. and Mrs. Nasty Boots, RJ Kern, Skinny Matt, and Xavier Reyes, with a special welcome to new patrons, Seth Sturgill, Awesome Dave, and Tech Mike. And thank you to Yarden and Skinny Matt for upgrading your support. You guys, this doesn't happen without you. I'm just telling you guys that right now. None of this happens without you. We would have shut this down a long time ago. I wouldn't be able to justify any of this to my family. So thank you guys so much. And I have to say too, last night, as I record this, I had just a conversation with a few people. An absolutely transformational conversation. Things are gonna change in the best way possible. And man, I can't wait to tell you guys about it. I'm about to spoil it, and I can't do it. We've got something big in the works, and I can't wait to tell you guys more about it. Now, I mentioned Johnathan Brown just before we get to the Uncanny Omar, which, guys, this is special. But Johnathan Brown, longtime friend, he's been there for me for basically since the beginning, man. And I want to single you out just for a second here, Johnathan Brown. I want to say congratulations for releasing your new album, In My Element. We're going to feature Johnathan Brown's music for the entire month of January. It's going to be whenever we intro the conversations. Right after this, you're going to hear Johnathan Brown's music. You can find it on Spotify and Apple Music. It's under PME. All the links are in the show notes. So please, guys, go check it out. If you've got Apple Music, whatever it's Apple, what is it, Unlimited or Spotify, go give it a listen. Add it to your playlist. Do all the things. It's what I have found. I've actually started to listen to this while I work, and it's perfect. I wish that I could listen to podcasts and wouldn't work, but I don't know what it is, man. I've lost the ability to do that lately. I can't listen to people and think. It's like I'm turning into an old man. I'm like turning. It's like when, I don't know if you guys ever did this or if your parents ever did this. They'd be driving around and they would turn down the radio to think about where they're supposed to be going. My dad always did that, and I never understood it. I'm turning into that, where I'm like, I'm turning down the radio to concentrate. I'm like, since when do I need to hear myself think? But that's me. So Johnathan Brown's music is perfect for just a little background music, just a little chill. It's very, very cool, man. Check it out, please, guys. All the links, again, in the show notes. Now, the moment we've all been waiting for. The Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition is here. He is my guest and is, I wouldn't say like single-handedly, but has very largely contributed to my newfound obsession with comics. At one point, I found a video on his channel that just explained even the format, just as something as simple as like, what's a single versus a trade paperback? Well, like, what is an omnibus? Like, what the heck, man? And ever since then, I have gone through so many videos. It's been very rare for me to just discover a YouTube channel and then go down the rabbit hole on that one channel. But this is the one. So, you know, and Omar has just an incredible community over there at the YouTube channel, Near Mint Condition. I really encourage you guys to go check it out if you haven't already. And what has occurred to me just as I'm about to release this episode to you guys is there's so many people in that community who would kill for this chance to sit down and chat with Omar, and that is not lost on me. I'm so grateful for Omar's time, for the fact that he entrusted me to like sit down and have an interview. It's very free flowing. We just, in case this is your guys' first time listening to the show, it's just a chat. We're just kind of having a sweet hang. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys, if you haven't already, go check out Omar's channel, Near Mint Condition. It's one of my favorites, if not my favorite YouTube channel on the entire internet. This is a quick heads up for any of you guys who typically listen in for video game conversation. This is a comic book conversation, and I love it. I adore it. I hope you guys enjoy it as well. Here he is, the Uncanny Omar. How are you even considering moving with all that stuff behind you? Like, you've got an actual library.
So what? I'm 43 years old, and the girls and Melanie and I have been down here putting up just like. So I'm also a toy collector. Like, I love anime figures and video game figures. Yeah. I've gotten rid of a lot because that's how I was able to pay for a bunch of this stuff here. Mm-hmm. But I have a ton. Yeah. A ton. Yeah. And it doesn't weigh much. And I look at my books. And it's these moments of like, I gotta get to this because so I realize all my friends are in their 40s now, and I can't get them to come over for beer and pizza to help me move. Mm-hmm. So I think I have to actually hire movers to do it because I'm too old and too stubborn because I will try to do it myself. I'll get hurt, and I don't need that. So I'm just gonna let them do it. I may pack the omnis just because I want my things to be in good safely stored, but as far as carrying them, my goodness, there's no way.
How many books do you have? Like, because I can only see so much, but like, do you have like an idea of like quantities that you're dealing with? It's like it's endless behind you, and I've seen the tours and everything. It's like, it's crazy, man.
A lot. I have manga too. I haven't even done my manga tour. I'll probably wait till I get to the new house to do the manga tour.
Oh yeah.
A lot. I'm not gonna lie. A lot.
When you move, like, have you chosen your house? Like, are you in that process, or are you in a sort of in between stage, or what?
We made an offer like Sunday, and it's going back and forth. At first, like, we were gonna be able to do it just with a down payment, and now the lender's like, well, you have to sell your home, so it's contingent on the sale of your house. It's like, oh my gosh, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to take our
gosh, yeah,
out slowly to the new house. Now we have to sell our home, so it's this whole like, you have a 5-week window to sell your house, get the money, make sure you don't lose the bit. Like, it's insane and a lot of stress, and we'll do it though. We
and you're not skipping a beat on the channel though, man. Like, you're still doing like at least a video a day.
It's my full-time job, so
yeah. Is it?
So I don't. It's been my full-time job since. It's almost been a year actually.
Good for you.
January 16th is when I decided to take it full time.
Yeah.
Because I lost my job. We can do this if you want to.
If this is, I've been recording the whole time. Like, this is all good. Like, it's just sort of like, there's no real intro. I do it all separately and everything. So it's just super conversational.
Yeah. Well, then I'll go ahead and tell you. Yeah. So it wasn't like I set out to be a YouTube sensation in my 40s.
It's the life plan we all drew up, right?
So back in 2000, and when was it when we started? About five years ago, my friends and I got together, and we used to have a podcast about 15 years ago, and we decided, hey, let's get together again and like maybe do something, maybe do video this time. So I hear this YouTube thing is a thing that's happening. So we all had full-time jobs, but our kids were older, and we can get together again, and that's when we started the channel. But eventually I kind of spun it out because there were things I wanted to talk about that nobody else was interested in. So I started doing more and more collected editions because that's what I wanted to do, because it was videos that I wanted to see. Yeah. Especially when I was beginning to get into collected editions, the information that was out there was very, very limited. There was one website that kind of had it was pretty much a spreadsheet of things that were coming out, but they didn't tell you what issues were collected in there. So then I started making my own, and then honestly, I just kind of started memorizing things. But anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to show people like, hey, this particular X-Men book fits in between Phalanx Covenant and Age of Apocalypse. It's called Legion Quest because it leads into the Age of Apocalypse, and there's a double dipping that happens in here.
Your brain is crazy, man. Like, and you're always off script like that. You're just like, I'll just brain dump into this video. Like, you must do a little bit of research ahead of time, but it's all there and just kind of so naturally streaming out of your mouth, man.
I think somebody once said you should write scripts, like your videos would be better. Yeah. And I was like,
no, not for videos. No, God, no.
They would, but do you know how much time I would spend on a script? Like, I just wing it. Like,
that's way better though. People can always tell when you're scripted, you know?
Yeah, and I think there's some authenticity to just. It's not like a know-it-all attitude, but more of a. I make mistakes too. Like, I get corrected, and I don't mind. I like when people say, "Oh, by the way, they're really nice about it." They don't come out and say, "You were so wrong about this," although some people do. You were a little off on this, and I'm like, "Oh, you're right," or "I didn't know that." So I think there is like definitely authenticity, because those were, like I said, it's the type of things that I wanted to see. So long story short, we started that 5 years ago. I kind of morphed it into more of a collected editions thing, and that's what seemed to catch on, and people were just asking me more and more questions. And at one time, there was a time when I could actually respond back to every comment, and in that amount of time, I started doing 2 videos a week. And then it became like 5 videos a week, and then it became a video every day. My job at the time, I was an IT project manager, and I was traveling around a lot, so I could kind of map out my days. Like, okay, I can do these type of videos this week. And then in June of 2020, I lost my job, like a lot of people did during the pandemic, and I had to. Try to find something new, and it was depressing because nobody was hiring, and the people that were, it was only contract work, and it was rough. It was rough for a lot of people. So come October, I noticed like a peak in the numbers because I was doing different things on YouTube, trying different formats of doing things. And I talked to Melanie, and we both had a conversation. I said, if I tweak this a little bit, we start a Patreon full blown. And at that time, thank goodness too, Marvel reached out to me about actually officially sponsoring some videos for the channel. And all that added up, and I was like, I can make this work. I can make a living doing this.
That's awesome.
I I went live with that like January 16th. Whenever I made a whole video about like changes to the channel, and it's been a blessing. It's been crazy. It's been 2021 was nothing but a learning curve as far as like how to make this into a business and still keep it fun and still keep it fresh. It's been a huge learning curve. Like, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do, but my God, it's the most fun I've ever had doing anything. It is owning your own business. So, anybody that owns their own business, like, they don't take vacation. They don't stop working. They're constantly thinking about how to make things better for their business. It's the same thing with this. The channel, to me, I mean, it's all about I think I just bring my work ethic into this. It's like I put as much work as I would. No, I take it back. I put more work than I would when I had a normal 9-to-5 job.
What are some of the things? What are some of the things that people don't see you do? Like, it's one of those things is as a community member, as people watch the videos, they just see the video, but what goes on behind the scenes?
So I'm a solo act, right? Like Melanie will help me from time to time. We do live streams. I look forward to those. So when doing these type of videos, like I'm blessed enough that some companies will send me books, and I could technically show the book and be like, okay, here's the cover, here's the back, that's cool, and not know anything about the book, which, there are no guidelines. Nobody at these companies has ever said, okay, you have to talk about it for 3 minutes or 5 minutes, or give us some screen time. It's just me. Like, I think if I'm doing this full time, then I owe it to my subscribers to do a little bit of my own reading, or read the whole thing cover to cover, and then research it. I try to stay away from how I feel about certain stories, although sometimes I can't help it because I really enjoy something.
Those are my favorite because you can hear yourself, like, you're gonna say something like, "I'm not gonna get into the story spots, but I've got to talk about like this thing. I can't help it. I'm gonna say I'm not gonna do it, but I'm totally gonna do it, man.
I'm totally gonna do it. I do that every time.
It's so funny. So I love it.
I do try to stay neutral because there are certain stories I don't like. There are stories that I love. And I want everybody to make up their own. My job is just to put the product out there and to showcase the artwork and talk a little bit about what the stories are. So a lot of the stuff that I do is reading. Like but I read every day, right? Like, it's not like, but here's one thing I had to learn to do though. So when I was reading for fun, I would focus on a particular story. Like, if I'm reading an omnibus, I wouldn't read something else. I would finish the omnibus reading about a particular character. Or if I'm reading a run, I'm like, okay, I want to read Flash from the very beginning, the oldest books I have, all the way in chronological order to the end of Flashpoint. Yeah, I can't do that anymore because there's so much coming in that I have to put a stop reading something, even though I don't want to sometimes. Even though I'm enjoying the crap out of a story, I have to put a stop and go read something else. And then I also have to read. I want to read for fun. Like, that's why I really look forward to like my top 10 reads of the year. Those, are just books that people have suggested to me, or books I've been wanting to check out based on like the artwork, and that's how, hidden gems, all that stuff. That's why I started that segment, because there's so many books out there that I've enjoyed. And I also have to give myself time to read for fun. And then, you're right. I do have to do a little bit of research about certain things, and then film it and edit.
Yes, man. I'm surprised is more to it than just the editing, but even that just on its own is tons, man.
Well, and they're not all like this. Like, usually like an overview of a video, an overview of an omnibus, and probably takes about 30 minutes to film, just to make sure I got the right angle, got the cameras, the lighting set up properly. I'm not showing any vulgarity on the pages. Sometimes they'll slip in and I have to edit out or filter it out or censor it out. About 30 minutes to do those. But editing, I say 45 minutes to an hour of editing. It's not terrible. Then there's the other side of things where it's like the upcoming collected edition. And I'll tell you how that started. So I did this video. It's probably my most popular video on the channel outside of the breaking news and other just random videos that seem to get more hits. But the one that always gets the hits is the upcoming collected editions.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like, here's all the books that are coming out next month. Now I started that because I already did that for myself. Like I made a list because I was tired of just going 3 different places and gathering this information. And I started making my own list. And then one day I said, hey, what if I can make a video of this? And I remember telling myself, I said, if 500 people watch, I'll keep doing this every month. And it became my most popular video. A lot of people look forward to that. But holy crap, the amount of work and time and energy that goes into that. Because now there's not only 3 places, there's several places I have to go because there's different distributors, there's different dates, and it's changing all the time. Then it's gathering, the information, right? Making a catalog of what's coming out, a written documentation, gathering the images, the high-end images, because YouTube prefers you to have a certain pixel rate on your image. And then the filming, the editing, I mean, altogether, that's like 18 to 24 hours worth of work.
Big time.
Everything runs smooth. My wife was here the last time I was doing it in technical difficulties. That's another thing. Like, since you do it solo, right? You don't have, I got to call IT. I'm IT. I'm everything.
Mm-hmm.
I have to get it fixed. I'm the one that fixes it. Oh, the laptop is down. What's going on? Why did Final Cut Pro? Like, where's my project? Where did Final Cut Pro put my project? All that stuff, man. It's just things that, people don't see, and I don't want them to, because it's not my job. It's not my job to let them see that I'm struggling with something. My job is just to put the good news out there and make their day a little bit better, and I'm okay with that. But behind the scenes, doing a solo thing can be really stressful.
I wanted to ask you, because you had mentioned kind of earlier on in the direction that you were taking the channel, like, what is it about collected editions versus, I don't know, I guess the only other option would be like singles. Like, what was it about collected editions, trades, and omnis and things that like caught you, or you wanted to make videos about that?
I'm a visual type of guy. I like things that look really good on the shelf. And this being a podcast, I guess it's kind of hard to tell that your shelf is full of really amazing little things that keep me distracted.
Yeah.
I like limited edition video games. I like it's nostalgic to me to go back and pick up a book, right? There's a certain beauty to going back to my long boxes and digging out an issue of Uncanny X-Men.
Yeah.
But the older I got, the more I realized, these look so much better on the shelf, like the Epic collections or the the omnis or the absolute editions. They look like wonderful pieces of just work on the shelf. Yeah. Expensive, but I think they are the best way to read these stories, because I don't have to get out my 18 issues of the Executioner song. I have to go dig through my X-Force box or my X-Factor box and just go get the hardcover or the Milestone, or and pull it off the shelf and read it all in one go. It's all complete. It's all it's in reading order already. You're not missing anything. So I think it's, I guess, a mix of getting older, wanting that nostalgia back, and then the simplicity of just picking a book off the shelf and say, okay, I want to read what the Phalanx Covenant is about.
But how are you sort of like reconciling the notion of, like, you kind of have to wait, you kind of have to be patient, and maybe you have enough inside knowledge in terms of, right? Like,
some of my viewers like to talk about things as soon as the book comes out, like Inferno. Like X-Men Inferno right now is like hot, right? No pun intended. And I'm like, wait, does anything?
Totally
the hardcover comes out in about a month. Okay, give me a month, because I tried. I'm also in my 40s. I don't really hang out on social media, so a lot of things don't get spoiled for me.
Nice.
But now that I have a YouTube platform, I do have to tell people, like, hey, by the way, I know you want to talk about Nick Spencer's final issue of Spider-Man, but that's going to be another 2 months for me. So just give me a little bit of time.
And
so trade waiting also has.
I'm sorry. Is it a given, and this is just me being new to comics, like, is it just a given that singles will eventually be collected in some sort of trade or some sort of collected edition?
It is now. There was a time when we didn't know.
Yeah.
There was a time, like, a lot has changed, and it's been such a nice gradual change, dude, that I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
Now, there was a time that I remember going, oh man, I wonder if that will ever be collected in a trade paperback. They've already done some, like, I remember some of Final Crisis. There was one particular one shot of Final Crisis. It was the Justice League. It was pretty much the wrap up issue of Brett Meltzer's run on Justice League. And it was not collected in any of the trade paperbacks. And I remember thinking, oh, that sucks. Like, I really like that issue so much so that I custom bound my own. What did I put it in? I think I put it in my Outsiders Volume 2 custom bound omnibus. But when Final Crisis did come out, they did put that one shot in there, the omnibus, the 10th anniversary omnibus. So there was a time when we didn't know if everything was going to be collected in trade paperback format. And now it seems like both companies, at least, whether they're doing hardcovers, standard size hardcovers, deluxe editions, or omnibus editions, in one form or another, these stories are going to be collected to be put on your shelf. I think even some of the digital stuff that's available digital only will be collected eventually. So you can put it on your shelf. And I think that's I never realized it until you asked that question, how, I've always said that we live in like the golden age of the collected editions. And it's true, because without thinking about it, I said, everything will be eventually collected in some kind of collected edition format.
Yeah, I mean, I just bought a bunch of Carnage, I think Red, White, and Blood or something like that, and I bought it because I like the covers on them, and I'm like, and then it was, I bought, I think 3 or 4 of them, and then it was on some website, I'm like, oh, there's a trade right there. Like, why wouldn't I just get that? And I'm coming to realize this as time kind of goes on, and I'm coming to know it. And honestly, it was how I got introduced to your channel was I was like, I just don't even know the formats. Like, your first video that I ever watched was all the different, like the difference between singles and trades and deluxe and hardcovers and omnis.
Oh, really? I'm so glad you found that useful.
That was the best one, man. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
I watched it over and over again because I'm like, okay, there is a lot here. Like, this like the back of your hand. And I was just like, I did this with PC gaming back in the day, back in like the mid 90s, where I'm like, I don't know anything about this. I'm just going to read this magazine until I kind of finally figure this out, until these words start to make sense to me. And getting into comics has been similar to that.
We live in a world where you can just browse what you're interested in and learn more about it. I think that's so cool. Like, I sound like an old man now talking about
I'm with you, man. We're not far apart.
Editions used to be. But, there was a time where if you wanted to know about something, you went to the library, or God forbid, you get one of your encyclopedias out and you hope you can find an entry in there.
PC Gamer, somewhere in here, I've got my first issue that I ever had of PC Gamer, and that was it. Me just diving in, just going like, what are these words? What's a megahertz? I don't know. Like, what do these words even mean? And just eventually they started to make sense. And I don't know what it was. Like, I've always kind of had an appreciation for comics. Like, back in the 90s, I collected Marvel Overpower cards. It was like Magic the Gathering.
I remember the colors on those were really awesome.
Oh man, I adore it. And I just didn't get into comics back in the day. I just always knew they were a thing. I watched X-Men cartoon and Spider-Man cartoons, things like that. So I was always like, I was just adjacent, just outside of comics, and typical, intimidated by like the variety and the depth and everything. And it was just coming to understand how it all works. And that was your channel. Like you mentioned before too, about the work that goes into collecting all the upcoming collected editions. Like, that's hard to find out. So when you have a channel like yours, where you're just like, you do all the work for somebody else, like, people find a huge amount of value in that, even though it means for us, we're just going to end up spending, all of our money on a month-to-month basis, man. It's like, holy crap, dude.
I think most people, whenever they greet me, like, they just want to say hi, or they have a question on, they usually say, hey, I just found your channel. I love this stuff. My wallet or my wife, it usually is one of those two, hate your guts, though.
Big time. And my parents, everybody around me is like, what happened? Like, what? Because usually I'll ask for video game stuff or whatever. And then for Christmas, just over the last couple of weeks, it's like, it was just books. Like, just nonstop, which is awesome. And one of the best things I'll tell you too is like, my dad collected comics for a while because he had heard that our neighbor sold his collection once upon a time, and that was the down payment on their house. Like, before that was really a thing. So my dad kind of started collecting some stuff too, and so he's got a bunch of stuff in his basement. And recently, just me getting back into comics has him digging into his old comic collection. We're going to the comic shop together. Like, that's pretty cool, man.
I've heard people like bonding over comics again, and people that have been gone from comics for 20 something years coming back and watching my channel and saying, I had no idea that these stories were now available in this nice format.
Yeah, man.
And I think honestly, that has a lot to do with it. Now that it's easily accessible, man, why? Yeah, that's wonderful. Go relive your childhood, or whatever that was, whether it was 70s,
or whatever you
60s.
missed out on. Like if you lived it or if you missed it. Yeah,
like,
man.
There are several. So I left comics for a little while too. Like most everybody, you get to be a certain age, you start taking other interests. But I left it like right around Onslaught, so that was like 1996. I left comics for a few years. It wasn't until Grant Morrison's run on New X-Men that I came back. But I missed out on things like Hitman. I missed out on the ending of a few series. I missed out on like Transmetropolitan. All these books that I've heard other people talk about, but I never got a chance to read it. And now they're out in, with the exception of Hitman, maybe one day. Hopefully we'll get some kind of omnibus with DC. But we have like really nice absolute editions of some of these stories. Or Alan Moore was still writing a bunch of stuff then too. Like League was very popular in that time. So yeah, you're right. If you missed out on it, you can go back and read it. Or if you were missing that one issue that you couldn't get for your 14-part whatever it was that you were collecting, yeah.
Unless you take a liking to some Todd McFarlane stuff and you want to get some Spawn hardcovers, that is just so mad. And dude, like you even asked him about it. I love that you asked Todd McFarlane, like, please God, just like give us some. And everybody in the chat, like, let them know that this is what we want. Is it a legal thing? Is that why? Is there like an issue with, what is it, issue number 10 or something like that they can't include, or what is it?
No, because the compendium has issue number 10. It's just I think right. a lot of the time people, I don't know if it's faith or what. Maybe they lose faith in their creation, but he can't be, because this is a different Todd. Todd was a lot more pompous back in his 20s. So though, that guy was up there. He was one of the kings of comics, but he must have seen the pre-order sales of that Spawn toy being broke like $1 million in a matter of just, I think it was a day or so. It was crazy.
Well, Spawn seems to be, I don't know, maybe comics just in general. Like, does it seem to you that, like, you mentioned people are coming back to comics in a big way. Like, are comics bigger now than ever? Like, it seems to me like there's some sort of renaissance happening, but I don't know enough to really make a comment like that.
I saw, there was a big spike, of course, during the pandemic. 2020 was a huge year for graphic novels, the collected editions, right? Yeah. It was a huge year. Whether it was the retail market or the book market, it was huge. Basically, people were at home, and then much like everybody else started looking at videos, started, like, hey, I wonder what Spider-Man's been up to. I haven't read Spider-Man in 25 years. And then finding different ways of collecting these things. And one of them was, of course, these big omnis, and people were like, I had no idea these books existed. Now, things, I don't want to say have slowed down, but, I think it's definitely grown. And I don't know. People ask me this all the time, like, do I see it keep growing? And I think so. I think it's like, basically we're talking about physical media, right?
Right.
And obviously you're a physical guy. I see your stuff behind you. I am as well. And everybody tells us, it's a dying thing. Everything's going to go digital. Movies are going to go digital. Look at Disney, right? Like Disney is no longer doing live action physical movies outside of their MCU stuff, or I can't remember what else. They made a rule about it, but like all those old movies that we grew up, like you'll never see them in 4K.
That's crazy.
It's insane. So it's like up to smaller companies to produce those kind of physical format media overseas, and people are importing them. Same thing with video games. Video games, look at the same release date, and you're not even getting a deal by buying digital.
I know.
You're still paying $59.
How have we not made us think about that, like, at all? Like, it's absolutely
because
crazy.
Everybody wants it the same day. Everybody wants it day one, and you're gonna pay that price. It doesn't matter if it's $60. But that's the other thing, right? Like, people are like, no, there's not going to be. Look at the video game, like the actual consoles themselves, right? You have to pay an extra price to have
for the disk drive,
right? It's insane,
so true,
dude.
It's so true.
It's insane.
But I think that's the thing that comics really like. That's the itch that it scratches for me, which is I can have something physical. And that's the amiibo, is the toys and stuff. Like, I'm not buying my games physical anymore, so I need something. I don't think I ever made that conscious decision that, like, I don't, and it wasn't until after it showed up on my shelf. I'm like, oh, that's what I've been up to. That's why I've been obsessive about this stuff. I like how they look together. To your point about like, the spines kind of looking nice on a hardcover, all lined up really good. And, that's why I have toys that are still in the box together, because I like their artwork that comes along with the box. It sounds very maybe strange to say,
and you're willing to pay a premium price to have that.
It's a celebration of the obsession is kind of how I think about it.
Absolutely.
Like, I love video games and I want all the things about them. And I have like this appreciation for artwork just in general. I wish I could draw better than I can draw. When I see like a video of like Todd McFarlane going, we're just going to do a 2-minute drawing of Spider-Man. And it's like better than if I spent a month on the damn thing. It's so great. And yeah, I want to have that. I want to have that around my house. I want to read it. And I want to have an appreciation for the look and feel of a hardcover or even the paper. I love that you talk about even like the paper quality and how it feels. Is it a gloss? Is it a matte? Like those things to me, like that totally resonates.
I think those are. I try to talk about things that are important to me, and then you also get like viewer feedback. Hey, could you mention this next time? Mm-hmm. And of course I can. So the amiibo, going back to
start your own YouTube channel. You talk about it.
Okay, so the amiibo. Let me tell you, when the Nintendo 64 came out, when Smash Brothers came out on the 64. I remember the ending, and you collecting the little trophies. I remember saying, man, if they ever release those little trophies, like a physical format of those little trophies, I'm going to collect them all. And I remember telling my friend, I'm like, they can be gashapons. I could go to the freaking gashapon machine and spend $100 trying to get myself a Toon Link or Link at the time, Kid Link. Mm-hmm. And when they announced those things, I said, oh my gosh, they're actually coming, and I gotta go stand in line. I gotta go stand in line at Target for Rosalina or whomever.
Yes.
But I did. I was a grown man and standing in line at Target. I have one of my favorite stories to tell people. It's my buddy Rob and I were at Target. This was when we still had Toys R Us here in the United States. I think they had who was the exclusive to Toys R Us? Oh, Lucario.
Oh yeah.
Lucario was the exclusive, right, to Toys R Us. And these dudes pull up in a car, and they're like, what are you guys doing? Before anybody could say anything, I said, we're waiting on the new Madden. Because I was like, there's no way in hell I'm waiting in line for an amiibo.
I love it. You don't even have to think about it. You just got to like send them on their way, man. That's hilarious.
Yeah, no, I don't need you to mock me. Just go on about your business. I'm here waiting on a freaking doll. That's
I'm right with you. And we had the Wii U. We bought, my wife and I really connected just as the Wii was kind of coming to an end. Wii U was kind of coming into play around 2012 or something like that. And we had pre-ordered a Wii U. We got that together. We knew that it wasn't really a big deal because we got there. There's no lineup like at all. Like nobody's there to buy the Wii U. And then they had one with the Mario Maker, and I think it came with an amiibo packed in with that one as well. And I was there along with a bunch of kids, like waiting for the amiibo for that was for Mario Maker. And I remember talking to a mom in line. She's going, "So you're here for the toys?" I'm like, yeah, like, what do you mean? Like, what is this? And we're the same age. Like, we become, like, we're all parents here. So that, and when I fire up a Zoom call for work, like I still work full time, and like, this is my office. So
that's
it's
awesome.
Like, I do this, I podcast from the same area. It's my work.
When I worked, when I was a project manager in IT, I had meetings with talking about like $1 billion projects.
Yes.
And here I am in front of like my Epic collections, and people are like, nobody ever said anything except for one time. I think some guy was like, "What? Who are you again?" And I was like, "I'm the project lead in this," and they were like, "Oh, okay." That's a pretty cool background.
I remember thinking like when it all kind of first started, I thought maybe I should throw up like a blanket or a sheet or something like that, because back then we thought we were gonna be home for like a week or so, and I'm glad. Yeah, right. Like I canceled a flight and thought I'd be back in the office a little while later, but I'm glad that I didn't, man. I'm glad that I've kept it. And there are a couple people who I keep them on their toes. I move things every once in a while to see if anybody notices, and sure enough, they do. How often are you like managing just your inventory, just in general? Because you have new stuff coming in all the time. I imagine you have some sort of churn of stuff that you're keeping versus giving away or adding to your collection.
Oh, yeah. It's called a stack on the floor. Mm-hmm. That's my inventory.
Is it really?
No, in all seriousness, like We just did a giveaway for just, I think we did a Christmas episode, and I was just separating those books, getting that ready to ship out. I like paying it forward.
Yeah.
I think I've been very blessed in the position that I'm in, and I came from, I didn't grow up with lots of comics. When I lived in Peru, I had to work in the tobacco fields and had to mow lawns. Really? And yeah, here in America, when we moved to America, I mean, things were different then too. Like you could work really young mowing lawns. I think I started doing that at 10.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even my lawnmower. It was like my neighbor's lawnmower that he let me borrow as long as I cut his yard.
You're building good work ethic, man. I was right with you. I think I was 8 years old when I had my first paper route, just delivering flyers and stuff around the neighborhood.
I think that's important, and it keeps, remembering that time keeps me humble.
Oh, yeah.
Like I have these books coming in from Marvel, and they're not cheap, and sometimes they'll send me 2 copies, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna give one away because this is cool. Like I'm in a position where I can do that. I wish shipping overseas was a little cheaper, though.
Seriously.
My goodness, that takes a chunk out of my my butt. Oh my gosh, I think the last time it was like $500 and it was like 10 people's stuff that we were shipping out.
And time too. Are you finding it's taking a long time to get over there? We did a giveaway recently to somebody in Australia, and this was back in November.
I was gonna say Australia is the one that, oh my gosh.
Sometimes it's like, yeah, we'll maybe try to find something else that'll work out, because it was literally like months and hundreds of dollars to send over, kind of like a small thing, and it just kind of depends on the time of year and things. But you're right, like that's just part of it, and that's great. That I love that it just seems to come through, whether you're doing the thing of giving the thing away or just talking about comics. I feel like that humble nature comes through. I think that's one of the reasons I visit your channel. I'm sure a lot of people visit your channel versus others, man, as well. Like other people do it as well. They do the here's what's coming up and here's my thoughts on this channel. But like I don't know, you just have a very like natural way you come across, just exactly as I'm talking to you. It's exactly the person I've been watching, of course, on the videos all along.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, like I try to do the what you see is what you get.
Big time.
Like I do on my Patreon, we do this one-on-one thing, and it's the most chill because like I had a couple of young people join that. And it was so weird for me because they were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I'm talking to you," and I'm like, "Oh my god, you need to calm down because I'm just a dude in my basement." Like, it's cool. It was a very humbling experience to see that though, like people's reaction, and they were like, "Man, you're just the same as you are in your videos," and I'm like, "Yeah," and my wife has to put up with that like 24/7.
She's the sweetest, man. Yeah, I love that.
It's pretty much who I am, and it's cool. I like that though. So like when other people start their own channel doing the same type of material that I'm doing, I always tell them, I think it's cool. Like I think there's enough out there that everybody has their own voice to put into it. And it's like, as long as you're using your own voice and you're having fun with it, just keep doing it. Like I always tell people not to compare themselves to others, because that is one of the most hardest things to learn to do. But once you do, and you're having fun doing it, just keep doing it. That was always my advice to people that have started a very similar type of channel. I think there's enough people out there to entertain.
Yeah, that's a good attitude to have, man. And one of the things that just comes out to me in your stuff is like the interviews, of course. I want to talk about how the interview with Todd McFarlane kind of came together. I don't remember how many years ago that was. But X-Men, obviously, a big part of just is it central to your sort of like nerdism with comics? Is that the one, X-Men?
Yeah, that's my backbone. I mean, that's my X-Men. Primarily Chris Claremont, like. He really did help who I became. Like there are certain stories in my life that will always stick with me and I kind of gravitate to, but I think the backbone of everything was always X-Men.
Yeah. Why is that? What was it? And I'm actually, as I'm exploring lots of different stuff. I'm coming back to X-Men, I think probably because of the cartoon, and they were so prevalent within that Overpower game I mentioned as well. What is it about X-Men that sort of like resonated with you? Like why that one?
It probably has to do a lot with my coming over here to America from Peru.
Yeah.
Not speaking the language, not having a lot of friends, and I think like most kids, we always feel like the weird one, the strange one, the one that doesn't fit in. I think all kids go through that. Not it was me. So having to go home after school and looking forward to reading X-Men, it was like visiting like another like an extended family almost. And because they were going through the same thing, like that's why I connected with them. They were being judged by the way they look, and people didn't like them, and they kind of found each other. And I thought that was a beautiful message, and to acceptance and all that. Like everything, most of the way I am with people is probably because of X-Men. Like it sounds say, but a lot of it was that and wonderful parents that raised me. But X-Men really put a lot of that in there, like not to fear anybody because they look different.
It's the best.
I think that's a to have like. That's why I'm kind of pushing my kids to read X-Men. That's
like gently pushing. Nobody wants to be the overbearing, push, but it's like, but X-Men, maybe you just want to check this one out, dude.
Yeah, we always do. Like it's cute. We do reviews of the Mighty Marvel Masterworks on the channel, and they've done like Silver Age stories, and it's really cool to see what they think of those Silver Age stories. Because I remember, like with me, I struggled with X-Men. I did not like Silver Age X-Men, and both of them were like, yeah, it was all right. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
So that kind of.
Is it just too wordy? Is that the deal? Like, is it just too much? Is it too much reading?
Not really. That stuff doesn't bother me. It was just bland.
Yeah.
It was just bland compared to like Jack and Stan's Fantastic Four, or Ditko and Stan's Spider-Man. It seems like they were using all their talent for those books. Even Thor and Iron Man had more sense of adventure. I mean, there was a reason why that book was canceled, and then came back with Giant Size #1.
Man, well, one of the things I think I've watched it a couple of times over. I had to like rewind and scrub back on the video because I've done a thing a couple times where I've just wandered through a comic book shop and I'm just like I'll just find whatever cover kind of strikes me, and I'm looking for like one or two that just the cover looks good. And I found X-Men 92 and some long box. I thought those were pretty sweet. And then X-Men Legends, I popped up. I'm like, those are awesome, and I have to get a couple of those. And then you did a video probably about a year ago at this point, which is probably terrible for me to reference something that I was just watching. You just haven't even looked at it since a year ago.
It's
but
okay.
you were referencing this trade, and your reaction to this X-Men Legends is so pure. It's so like, and now we're on to X-Men Legends, and it's just like this. Oh my gosh, you guys! Like you totally go away from the I'm gonna stay neutral. I'm gonna stay in the middle. There it is, right there, man. It's so
Yes.
good, and I've tracked down some of the singles as well. It's excellent, and for me, it's all the things that you said about X-Men and that like 90s kind of poppy neon almost artwork. It's just so good. Yeah, man, the nostalgia is real for sure.
I could not wait for that collection. I can't wait for the next one. I think it's such a unique idea to let the writers go back and tell their story as if they had intended to all those years ago. I think
there's a tie-in with video games, man. You're seeing that a lot in games as well, where it's just like games are being remade, remastered, reimagined in ways like Doom 2016 is a really good example of this. And there's a bunch of them. It seems like now going back is paying off. I think this is something they've, it's almost like what Star Wars tried to do and just totally failed with. Like that was the first attempt at it. Now they can actually do it fairly well because I don't know, maybe it's just because these are the people who grew up on this stuff instead of the original creators getting old and out of touch with stuff and trying to relive the glory days.
I think there is a lot to be said about that. Like a lot of the people that are making the video games that we love or doing the remastered editions are the kids that grew up playing those games. And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Same thing with comics. Like a lot of the comics, like there's a guy, one of my favorite editors. He's a collected editions editor at Marvel, Corey Sedlmeyer. He is like, he loves old stuff. So anything that he touches, like just the artwork looks the cleanest. The colors look just vibrant, as close to the original as you can make it. It's just, I look forward to all his edits, even though I don't agree with the kind of stories that he likes. He likes a lot of the older more classic stuff. But that's just because of our age difference and preference. Actually, he's not that much older than I am. I think he's only like a year older than me. So I think it's just preference. He goes
You're
back
young
to the
at
class.
heart, though, man.
Yeah. I have kids that watch my channel that are like 12 and 13 that love Silver Age. And I'm like, really?
That's awesome, man.
Impressive. That is really cool.
And it renews faith in humanity and the future of our species when you know that, you know, kids are reading that stuff and they're listening to heavy metal stuff. Like they're listening to old school or whatever. Yeah.
My daughter was actually, she's 12 years old, and she was telling me that she said, what was it? She was reading something about her generation and why they love the 80s and 90s. And she's like, it seems like our generation is very, like, we want physical things. We want CD players. We want CDs. We want cassettes. And I was like, what? Cassettes? Have you heard of digital music?
Cassettes of all the things, like, you know, CDs I could understand, but like, they're just, cassettes are like, they're double-sided, like you gotta rewind them. You can't even like skip to the next track, dude.
There are people that collect VHS. There are people that, so I get it, right? Like there's definitely something to be said about physical media, and it's interesting that she said it's her generation is like, they want to go back to that era, and I wonder what connection that is, like that 80s 90s era. But
because it seems impossible, it seems foreign.
I have a bunch of that stuff, so
it's that's amazing, and that's a tough thing. That's something that I admire about you big time, is like being able to, you know, just have the collection. Number one, it looks great, it looks organized and all that kind of stuff that obviously resonates with me. But like, you know, you could have a moment and just go like, do I need this stuff anymore, and sell all of it. You could have that moment and just like clear out the space, but you don't. Like, it's stuff that's really important to you.
Yeah, I thought about, I mean, I'm not above selling things. Like, I've sold most of my toys or statues, and just because I want to focus, and eventually you run out of room. I mean,
statues are like another level, man. Like, I can't, I look at the prices on those.
I have as I point to my books, an addictive mentality. Like, I can't, like when the Berserk statue of Guts came out, and they were going to reissue a lot of the other statues. Like, a friend of mine was like, I want to buy you this. Like, I'm going to take up some money. And I'm like, no, please don't. I think it's wonderful. Thank you. But I will buy every single one of them. It won't stop at Guts. I'll get Griffith. I'll get Costco. I'll get the God Hand. And then I'm going to be I'm going to be sleeping with these things in my bed, and my wife's going to kill me. So I said, I can't do that, because I don't stop at just one. I can't and oh my gosh, I have so much respect for people that, like, you know, I'm gonna go get that X-Men Omnibus Volume 3. That's got my favorite stories in it.
You go to that one. You skipped to the third one. It's so funny you say that, because I just was in a store and I had the second omnibus in my hand. I've had Volume 2 X-Men in my hand. I'm like, I can't do this one. I gotta at least start with number 1, and then I'll kind of like progress along the line. But I did that exact thing, like, and that's what, $300 plus. They're $125 each. Like, they're not cheap.
They're not cheap. And I'm always envious of the people, or like the people I used to work with, that like had that one toy at their desk. And I was like surrounded by all these action figures and just all these different memorabilia from like video games. And I looked at them going, man, how I envy your one little toy that sits at your desk. It's
funny. I've had a lot of people on this show over the years, and I had to actually catch myself at one point, because I asked them a lot about that. I'm like, how do you stop yourself? Like, how do you practice like that discipline? And they go, well, this stuff costs money. And I'm like, oh yeah. Yes. Like, how much of a dink do I feel like right now? I'm just like splurging, and, you know, I probably could be like, you know, saving for my kids' education or something like that. And instead I've got like this thing behind me.
My kids are going to do the same thing I did. You're going to get scholarships, and they're going to pay for their way to school.
That is what I am talking about, man. And the thing is, like, that was the whole, like, going back to working basically from grade 3 is when I had my first paying job, and half of every paycheck went into a fund. I hated my parents for taking half of my money. I wanted to buy Pogs back in the day. It was so smart, dude. Like, I could never appreciate it enough, because I just didn't even, when college came around, like, I didn't even think about it. Like, the money was just there, and like, thank God it was, because you just watch everybody around you get into student loan debts and everything. So yeah, very appreciative for the parental guidance on that, because I never would have seen it coming.
Yeah, man. I don't think anybody really prepares you for debt, like college debt. But yeah, like, I think with books, like, they're just things I want to go back and revisit. And honestly, it's the things that I love talking about on the channel and have helped build the channel the way that it is. So at any point, I can go back and do it. Like, okay, I will say this: when I was working in 2020, and I lost my job about August, because there was about 4 months that we didn't get any new comics, didn't get any new collected editions. We didn't know the future of comics. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if people were going to go back and start making comics again, if the distribution centers were going to start delivering things again.
Oh, you say we, like the world. You mean the world didn't get comics. Like they weren't making any.
No, nobody.
Not just your channel. I got it. I gotcha.
Everything shut down.
Yeah.
So that was, anytime I ever look at my schedule going, oh my gosh, I don't have an idea for tomorrow. What video am I going to do? Let's just go back to 2020 going, somehow I was able to scrap videos together every day in the middle of the pandemic when we were not getting any new material, and still watched. And I'm like, I got this. I can, that's back when I think that's why I started doing like hidden gems, or I can't remember exactly what the other segment that I started doing at that time was, but I always go back to 2020. I'm like, if I was able to do a video every day in 2020, I think I'm going to be okay.
It was probably a happy accident, man, because I think that was where a lot of the early videos that I was checking out, because I needed to have some sort of on-ramp into it, because there's just too much. It's just this giant barrage of stuff. I didn't know where to start. And it was, like I said, it was what are the different formats? And then it was a bunch of Todd McFarlane stuff. It was your reviews of the Omnis, the Spider-Man, the David Michelini Omnis and things like that. And that, I would imagine, was around that time. Like, because I don't know that they were brand new, or there was another printing. You were comparing like new stuff versus previous printing.
Retro views. That's what I started doing too. Like, people were like, can you just take like an old book that's been around for a while? And I don't know, maybe talk about it. And I was like,
super valuable, dude. Honestly. Sure. Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. And I really enjoyed it. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to, whenever I have like, now when there's so many books, and I say that like that's a bad thing, it's a wonderful thing. I don't have the time to like go get a retro, like get out an old book and talk about it. So anytime I have time to sneak one in, I'll try to sneak one in, because I enjoy talking about all this old stuff too. And hopefully catch the eye of somebody at like DC that will say, hey, let's reprint that, because that hasn't been around for a while. But,
that's the ultimate joy too, isn't it? Like you want something, you're eyeing something, like I just wish that they could put this back in stock, and then it like magically happens every once in a while. You get the one, and that's I don't know. It's a weird world, man. This comics world is a little strange. I ended up having to invest in another shelf because it was starting to show up in here. I was trying to cram things in amongst everything else. And then another shelf kind of is around the corner, and that's where things are on display. And I'm just trying to figure out like how to make it all look good. You know, like this is the obsession. This is the hobby, and I don't know, man. I feel like just a kid in a toy shop right now, just really looking to learn and experience new things. Like I'm not even into any one set of comics, period. I'm just like, I'll look at Saga. I was just reading Skyward. I was reading a trade Skyward from Image Comics. Just got into it. And when I read the first book and went, well, I obviously just need to get the, whatever it is, the hardcover, some sort of deluxe edition. I've got to get into that now, because I've made the decision. I don't want the rest of the trades. I just want to get into the hardcover stuff.
It's so much easier. It's all in one, man.
I know, and this is the dangerous territory that we find ourselves in. But it's hilarious, man. Do you have I got a couple more questions for you before we close things out here. But
sure.
As you look forward to, we just started a new year. You've got an onslaught of content that you can get to. Is there anything that you haven't gotten to yet, given that you've been around this block a couple of times? Is there something that you've been itching to do on the channel, or are you kind of like, have you settled into kind of what you could expect to be doing on the channel?
There are things that I do want to do. So sorry. So there are things I want to do, but I also have to put limitations on myself, or it's gonna be too much for me to do. One of the things that I want to do is, like, I do love talking about the history of these things, and I would love to talk in depth about some of the behind the scenes that were going on at the same time that these stories were happening, and to do that, kind of to grow the channel, of course, it would be an overlay of pictures or panels from comics, which other channels do. But oh my gosh, that I would need an actual editor to do, because I don't have the time to sit there and do that, because that takes away from the other content, and I can't, because that's one thing that I've learned to do is balance myself. Like, okay, I gotta give myself enough time to read all these trades that come out before Tuesday, or I gotta finish reading. I gotta go upstairs and finish reading Batgirl Burnside Omnibus. That came out this week, but I just got it in a couple days ago. So it's just balancing myself, and maybe in the new year, maybe if the channel keeps growing, I could actually hire somebody to do like video edits. That would be cool. Then that's something I can definitely think about and dive into.
And I can't wait for like a year from now when that actually happens and you're going full force. We can look back to this conversation a year prior and go like, wouldn't it be great if I could hire like an editor and, fast forward to the future. I love, and I just love, I don't mean to put you on the spot or anything about that. I just love like thinking about like having somebody like you who is a creator who has created something like with the channel so far and going like, what else is in that brain of yours right now? Like you're obviously, I wouldn't imagine you come back and go like, no, I'm good. I don't imagine that's where your head's at.
I mean, we have to. I say we. I don't know. I don't speak for every content creator, but I think at least for me, I have to keep it fresh. I have to keep going. Totally. I have to keep thinking of new things, and I have to keep thinking of new ways of doing it, because it keeps me on my toes, and it keeps my brain moving too.
Big time.
Because if I become a creature of habit and just show you a book and be like, "Look, here's the book. Pretty cool, huh? Awesome. Go click that link and hit our Patreon."
Yeah.
No, man. The audience is obviously going to see me slipping and be like, this guy is wasting my time. No, I can't. I feel like I'm cheating not only my viewers, but also myself. Like, why would I do that? That's not the type of work I want to put into it. So absolutely. Yeah, I do think of things. And that's one that has been with me for a long time and has stuck with me. And I haven't had the time to actually, it would take a long time. So I kind of just put it in the back.
That resonates with me big time. I mean, the fact that you're on the show, this is typically like video games is where this started. And for the first, I don't know how many episodes, it was basically the same like 5 to 10 questions with everybody. It's like, what was your first console and how did you get into gaming and things like that? It was very standard. I found like very quickly I was getting like, even I'm not even sure that I'm like excited by the conversations. So they very quickly morphed into much more free flowing like this. And even just like who's going to be on the show has totally changed. I remember starting this out and going like I had a lot of kind of just rules and guidelines for myself so it was familiar. And what I found was that the more unfamiliar it became was actually more enjoyable for me. So like even like I said, like even just this today is different territory for me, just talking comics, because it's what's interesting to me. Like this is the content that I want to make because I'd like to actually listen back and hear this. So maybe there's one other person out there who kind of is thinking the exact same thing. So
I think it's when I do interviews, it's always interesting because you have to kind of carry the conversation and you have to see where it's going to go. Sometimes you can tell it's easier when you do it face to face like this, right? Like sometimes you can tell like the question's not flying too well with the person being interviewed. So I might need to move away from that, and you just got to keep thinking ahead. So I always find those fun, and I don't really find them challenging because much like you're doing a great job doing this. It's like having a conversation with somebody, getting to know them. And that's what I enjoy about doing interviews. And in that same format, it's a laid back atmosphere. There's no like, well, I've got 10 questions. One of them might be controversial.
Yeah. You can't wait to get them. You can't wait to get them in a corner. Do you have a favorite? You've done a lot of interviews with a lot of different artists and creators and stuff. Like, do you have any that like pop to mind that are some of the top for you?
Chris Claremont.
Yeah.
I've interviewed him 3 times now, and he never. His wife has to text me, "Can you please remind Chris that he's gone on for 2 hours and he needs to get off?" And I'm like, of course I can. But he is my favorite writer, my favorite. Like he was my childhood. So to have him on, and then he is very. You've heard Kevin Smith talk, right? Like whenever you ask Kevin Smith a question, he'll go on for an hour and a half, and then go, "Oh yeah, what were we talking about?" Like Claremont is the same way. But he's a little bit older, so it takes him a while to think of things, and then he'll go on a whole tangent. I love it. I just sit here just staring at him. I'm like, I don't even have a question like ready.
No
just
need to rein him
listening
in, man. Just let him do his thing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's great to have on. I really, honestly, I like people that share my type of humor. I really like Chip Zdarsky. He was a lot of fun to talk to. My wife is the one that got him on the show. She's a bigger fan than I am, and he was a lot of fun. Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor, they were a lot of fun to talk to, because both of them are down to earth, silly people, and they're creators that you got to read the room, right? Like just like a stand-up comic has to read the room, and you have to do that with creators. You got to like see what they're into. You got to break that shell, because sometimes, man, like some of them don't want to talk to you. Some of them are like so tired of talking. But if you find a couple of things that they're willing to talk about, or show them that you actually enjoy the things that they've written and done, they'll open up, man. It's really cool to see that happen.
It must be an interesting life for these people to put things out there, because of course, there are fans, and that's why they continue to get to do the work that they do. But they're under critical watch always, and critical fandom, and you get kind of the good with the bad. So it's probably nice to avoid all the bad stuff. You just kind of have a nice positive chat about some of the work that they put out there. Like that's gotta feel good for them. Is there anybody who you've yet to have on? Like, is there a wish list that you got? I'm sure.
Yeah, there's so many people I want to have on. I'd love to have Grant Morrison. I'd love to have Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, which I need to reach back out to her. Like his people actually reached out to me, and I would love to have him on. He's my favorite comic book artist, and just a wonderful, pretty cool dude. I've talked to him at conventions many times, but I've not interviewed him. Several creators. Oh my gosh, of course, Neil Gaiman. Who would not want to talk to Neil Gaiman?
Yeah.
I just want Neil Gaiman to talk to me and tell me a story before bedtime, and I just go to sleep.
What are you asking if Jim Lee comes on? What are you talking to him first about?
Jim, when are we going to get our X-Men book out, man?
There it is.
Come on, man. Come on, Jim.
I can't wait till somebody gives Omar, the Uncanny Omar, like a little special thanks for like, this is because Omar asked me a question. That would just be great. You can type that in yourself. You can pat yourself on the back. One of these days it's going to work, man.
One of these days, yeah, I'll push somebody into doing it. I like pushing people to the point of like making them change their mind about things.
Heck yes. Has it ever worked?
That's what I'm starting to do with Todd McFarlane and Eric Larson. I'm like, look, there's a demand for these things. People love your comics. Like, look at all the people in the chat right now. They would love to have your stuff in hardcover format. And both of them, they just didn't they didn't care.
Those compendiums are maddening. I feel bad because I was telling my wife I would like to get into some more Spawn stuff, and she buys me the first compendium, and it was like a week after I had watched your review of the second one, and you're talking all about the spine and stuff. I'm like, I just don't know about this soft cover compendium. It's gigantic. It's 40 pounds, and
it's a tough call.
And no covers, dude. Like that was actually like in addition to a few of the other things. I think the no covers was the biggest deal for me. Because like that's the big pull for me, at least right now. Like knowing almost nothing, like relative to the vastness that is Spawn. Like I just want covers, man. Like that's kind of what I'm here for, at least at this moment.
I don't know why.
Such a weird choice, and they continued on with the second one.
It is definitely an interesting choice because what? Like at least even if they're soft covers, sure, people can stomach that, but at least throw the covers in there, man. People love the artwork. Part of the art is that cover. But I don't know. 50 issues, I guess, not bad for $60.
Yeah.
But
that's just it. Yeah, but still. Well, and we up in Canada, we always get, like, I don't know if you guys ever print like US and Canada prices on the back, but we see both, and we see what you guys are paying, and when we see right next to it what we're paying.
I'm so sorry.
We've made choices. It's we get our health care, but it's freezing, and we pay an arm and a leg for everything.
I was gonna say, this is what I tell all my Canadian friends. Like, look, it all balances out, right? I have to pay an arm and a leg for private insurance between me and my kids. my epic collections and omnibus editions are a little bit cheaper.
Like 40% less, man. Yeah, it's pretty unreal. Look, Omar, man, it's been an absolute pleasure again to just, even at the very least, being able to tell you face to face that I've been enjoying your content. You're honestly like, you're one of a kind. I really enjoy your channel. I think other people should check it out. Do you want to tell people where, if they haven't already looked at your YouTube channel and all your content, where they can find you?
Thank you so much for having me on, man. This has been a blast. I'd love to do this again. Near Mint Condition is the name of the YouTube channel, and we do have social media presence. I think it's just Near Mint Con, but the videos are posted every day on YouTube. So Near Mint Condition, just look that up.
Well, I will absolutely have you back on, because my collection will do nothing but grow larger and larger at the behest of my wallet, my PayPal, and all the things. cheapgraphicnovels.com, all the things are happening. Links for your channel will be in the show notes as well, so people should check it out there. But I just, once again, thank you so much for carving out time this late evening in the middle of the week, this new year. But I wish you all the best of luck with your channel in 2022, my friend.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words and for having me on.
I've just confirmed with the family right after I record this, but I'm going to put it out there. I'm packing up the family. We're going to a comic book store. That's what we're doing, man. I can't. How can I not after something like that? I don't know. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I know lots of times you're here for video games, but it was comics, man, and I'm here for it. I don't know what it is. It's the we talked about, like, the tangible, it's the physical stuff, man. I really enjoy it. So thank you so much to you for listening, and to Omar for joining me on this. I think he took a bit of a chance on me, and I'm very appreciative of that. And if you guys enjoyed it, if you're not already, follow me on Twitter at Sean Capri, Sean like Connor, Capri like the pants. Rate the show on Apple Podcasts and now on Spotify. I think you have to listen to the show first, though. I think this is Spotify. I don't use Spotify actually for my podcast. I use Overcast. So I'm trying to go support friends and all their shows and everything, but I don't do it. So I gotta listen to one full episode, and then I gotta do the thing. But if you're on Spotify right now, if you're listening on Spotify, and I know many of you are, it helps the show a huge degree if you just go over there and rate 5 stars. If you feel in your heart we deserve it, 5 stars. If you're sort of like more like a 4.5. I'd appreciate the roundup. I would appreciate that very much. And if you can go to patreon.com/JimmyCapri, there's so much content there, you guys. It's this show, the Xbox Drive, the Nintendo Drive, the PlayStation Drive, the RPG Cave. I feel like I'm probably missing something. Patrons at $3 plus get exclusive content, like we did a console war room with the trophy room. It was the Xbox Drive versus the trophy room in a fantasy draft. We picked, 12 games or something like that we hope are going to review quite well. And it got a little spicy, it got a little saucy, it got a little salty. All the flavors. we had a very flavorful conversation with the trophy room. That's for patrons at $3 and up. And I hope you guys love all that stuff, dude. Everything's clicking right now. I'm feeling it. I hope you guys are feeling it too. This song has been part of We the GamerCast since the beginning, and it has all, like, I'm telling you guys, sometimes I listen to it and it fires me up, and I hope you guys are feeling the energy as well. I hope this whole conversation has turned your day even just a little better. So there. What else do I want to tell you guys? I think that's kind of it. We end the show with this weird thing. Lately I've been explaining it, but I think we're just going to return to it just being the thing. So I appreciate you guys for listening. I will see you back next week. We've got lots more to talk about. Great guests coming up. And thank you guys again. Okay, bye-bye.
Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Sean, where are you? Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Jason! 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 Jason!